Hello and welcome back to the Week in Nintendo right here on GVG. If you don't know by now, the Week in Nintendo, as its name implies, is GVG's Nintendo-focused podcast. And what a week it has been. This is quite possibly one of the most This is quite possibly one of the most consequential weeks in Nintendo's history. It is the first week of the Switch 2. And so we've gathered the entire crew to talk about our experiences with the Switch 2 in its first week. I'm going to go last, but I'm going to call on each of you in order because it's going to get crazy if we don't kind of wrangle this thing. So, John, let's start with you. How has your week been?
Week has been busy as hell, but really cool. My favorite thing about Switch 2 is probably the backwards compatibility. Do you remember like a year ago, there was a lot of rumors that there wouldn't be any backwards compatibility? Like it was so uncertain. But now we've got our hands on it, and it's like the best it could possibly be. Like almost every game works, and almost every game is just running at the target frame rate now. And it feels like the entire Switch library's just kind of been remastered, and that's just endless, you know? I've barely touched the actual native Switch 2 games, 'cause I'm just playing old Switch games at 60 FPS now, and it rocks.
Yeah, it's been a crazy week. I mean, I think everybody on this panel has been doing more working with the Switch 2 than playing with the Switch 2.
Yeah.
So it's been, but there's a lot of fun in that work. Like a lot of going back and rediscovering old games. Some of the 15,000 games that are available on the Switch 1. Brandon, you've also been digging into the back library a bit. What have you been up to this week?
So, the day that we're recording this, my Legend of Zelda Switch 2 edition review went up, and I talk about it in the review, but the most funny thing about the Switch 2 launch to me is that the game I've been playing the most is Breath of the Wild, the Switch 1 launch title. I knew I was going to replay Breath of the Wild because of the Switch 2 edition. I was not expecting for it to pull me back in as hard as it did. I'm playing it more than Mario Kart World, a brand new game.
I know that.
Yeah, I watched your review, and honestly, I was not necessarily. It's so funny because when we went to the preview event and I played both of those games, I was like, "That's what I'll be doing." That has not held true for me in the slightest. But watching your review, I've decided that I'm probably going to use my downtime to try to play these games. I have tons of other things I need to be doing right now. But in those moments before I fall asleep, I guess I could try to play Breath of the Wild. Seeing your review just made me really want to go back to those. Great stuff, by the way.
Thank you.
Derek, you're up next. I know that you've been pretty busy as well. How have you been finding the Switch 2 in its first week?
I have been greatly enjoying it. I have not had the chance to check out as much of the back catalog as a lot of you, but the three games I've had access to, Mario Kart World, Yakuza 0, and Hitman, have all impressed. Like, Hitman is basically what you come to expect. Yakuza is cool just from the fact that it is a new version of a classic game. You got a brand new English dub. You have some new content in there. It runs and looks pretty equivalent to the PlayStation 4 version, which, as we're discovering with a lot of these comparisons we've been doing, the Switch 2 has a lot more power than you would expect. It just works. And it's hard to wrap your mind around that because you're so used to the Switch 1 being so underpowered compared to everything else, and everything is so familiar with the Switch 2 compared to, there's not a whole lot of differences aesthetically from the Switch 1 to the Switch 2 that you're just like in Switch 1 mode. So when it does work, it's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. This is like, it's so impressive. But as far as, oh, good.
I was going to say, I've had a couple of moments like that. Sonic X Shadow Generations runs at 60 FPS in the shadow portion, which PS4 doesn't do. It's locked at 30 on PS4. It's like you get PS5 and Xbox Series specs there. And with Hitman, it doesn't quite hit 60 FPS, but in handheld mode, you've got a VRR display. So it doesn't matter that much. And in Welcome Tour, there's a really cool tech demo where you use the VRR display and you can manually change the frame rate of this rotating switch. It really demonstrates it well. You can bring it all the way down to 20 FPS, and it still looks relatively smooth.
Oh wow.
So it kind of fixes a lot of frame rate issues.
I had no idea about that. I've not really bothered with Welcome Tour. I kind of wrote that game off, to be honest. But Mario Kart World has certainly impressed. I've managed to get through all of the Grand Prix. I haven't had a chance to try out Knockout Tour, but I've also just ran around in free roam a bit and just seeing what this world is like. And the the game is just a delight. Daniel's review pretty much captures a lot of it. There's a few issues here and there that I have, but it's nothing to really take away from the quality of the experience. And it's been fascinating to watch my son, the youngest son Kai, who's 4.5, just pick it up and just start. Like once he figured out what free roam was, he just loves it. He just goes everywhere.
It's built for kids, man. It's so built for kids. They can just keep going, never stop, never complaining that they're stuck or falling off. It's so good.
Yeah, it is perfect for them, and there's so many different biomes for them to see. And I'm sure that when he eventually finds Dino Jungle, he'll be like dinosaur and that sort of thing. It has that delight to it, of seeing the different animals that pop up. And then meanwhile, while I'm working on other things, Amy will try out my Switch 2 because we were only able to get one. It's like we can't afford getting two. But she's been playing off my Switch 2 while I'm working on other things, and she'll spend 30 minutes per Grand Prix. Just because after every race she goes through and takes pictures. She loves photo mode in Mario Kart World, and that's just an addiction for her. It's really cool to see, and you get some really neat pictures in there. There's a lot of creativity on display there, and it's not something I've seen talked about a ton, but I like how there's one game and all three of us are playing in different ways.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a really versatile game. I haven't played nearly as much of it as I'd like to. I tend to squeeze in a few races here and there, but I've been really enjoying the time that I've had with it. Like, it's just so different to what Mario Kart 8 is, and it's kind of funny because I think of Mario Kart World in the same way that I think of the eventual next Smash game. Like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe felt like it did everything that needed doing within the confines of the design ethos of Mario Kart at that point in time, where Mario Kart World feels like they've rethought it from the ground up. But if I keep talking about Mario Kart, I'm probably not going to leave enough for the guy that actually reviewed Mario Kart. So, Daniel, obviously we know a significant portion of what you've been up to this week, but why don't you tell us how your first week with the Switch 2 has gone?
Oh man, it started off with a bang. I drove out to San Francisco and experienced the midnight launch, well, 9 p.m. launch at the San Francisco Nintendo World Store. That was very exciting. I still have to put together my little, I guess, my little vlog of that, so if people can see what I was up to during that time. 'Cause I don't think many people really reported on it. But yeah, once I got home, very stressful, honestly. It was the most stressful launch I've ever experienced with a Nintendo console, and I don't know how to feel about it right now. Pretty much went into my first thing I went into was doing all the little things with the GameCube and the NSO GameCube controller, because no one really had it yet. You could get it directly from the store, and while I was getting it from the store, it was still being shipped out to everyone. So I wanted to report on that as fast as I could. Found a bunch of fun little things, like how if you hold the control stick starting up the GameCube, it plays the actual intro, and that the GameCube controller has gyro in it. But for some reason, there's like no games that are optimized to use it with because of the weird, wacky setup, but it's there for anyone. But yeah, other than that, I pretty much just went right into Mario Kart World and just played pretty much that nonstop, and taking notes, getting the review done, and just, in shock and awe that we're playing a new Mario Kart after, like, what, 10 years, a whole decade of playing Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U, on the Switch, with the Booster Course Pass. It just somehow kept us afloat all this time. And playing a new title, it just feels surreal to play an actual new Mario Kart title. I mentioned in that you kind of have to think differently when playing this one. You can't play it all completely like it's Mario Kart 8. I've learned that things like grinding on rails and leaping onto walls, you get a massive boost if you're on walls and bouncing back and forth between them. and I've already seen people doing crazy shortcuts on the walls, like leaping off, bouncing off of other structures. It's been crazy to see already what people
People
have
are
been up
playing
to.
this like Tony Hawk, man. Like, I've seen some radical clips of people just diving on the rails, jumping onto walls, taking these shortcuts. The meta of Mario Kart World, it looks like the most versatile one since DS and Wii. It's crazy what people are doing.
This is the expressive platformer of Mario Kart.
Yeah. It's really exciting to see where they're gonna go from here, and we're still discovering things even now. Like just earlier, I told you guys about how some stuff. I guess the video's already up at this point, but I mentioned about mirror mode and how we all thought, a lot of us thought that, oh, you can do mirror mode in Grand Prix and Knockout Tour versus and all that, but not free roam. And it's just the most weird way to find out how to do that in free roam. Like, you have to go to Peach Stadium, you gotta drive up and jump onto the roof. It gives me vibes of like Super Mario 64, honestly. And then you drive through the stained glass window of Peach, and then the whole world flips when you jump back out. I'm just like, this sounds like
That's
I'm telling
so
some kind of
cool.
like...
It doesn't sound like you're telling the truth right now. You're making this up.
Right? I love
I could be
that.
lying for all you know.
Next, you're going to tell me that L is real.
Exactly.
Oh man, but yeah, great time so far. I'm glad I was given the responsibility of doing our first like Switch 2 exclusive title review on GVG. So thank y'all.
Yeah, and we're happy you could.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing it for us. But there is one more
welcome.
member of the crew who's been hiding out at that bottom of your screen over there. And of course, that is our good friend Ash. Ash, how has your first week with the Switch 2 been?
Man, it's been weird. So, obviously, straight up, it's a bigger, better, faster Switch. It's been a lot of fun to behold that in the last week. Unfortunately, I decided to get sick right in time for launch. So it's been kind of a weird thing where my excitement on paper is through the charts. But, when you're sick, nothing is exciting. So it's been like this weird mix of doing what I can with all of us while also being in bed and being having a cold, and that's just kind of muting the whole experience a little bit. But I have been bouncing, as soon as I got home from the launch, I recorded a little system tour comparison between Switch 2 versus Switch 1, showing off how much faster and snappier the Switch 2 UI is compared to Switch 1. And then kind of like what you were saying, Brandon, I've been more than playing Switch 2 games, I've been kind of dabbling in Switch 1 games and seeing how much more improved they are. And I have to echo what you said about Breath of the Wild. I'm not going to have time to replay all of it. I know that already, but man, it's like it's a transformative experience. It's like playing a whole new game. It's insane. And I've just done like the first 4 shrines on Great Plateau, but just that has just been like, God, if I had the time, I would replay this whole game like this. It's crazy. But another really funny anecdotal one, and I know Brandon will know where I'm going with this because I think he's played it quite a bit as well. My wife loves to play Wheel of Fortune on Switch. I know it's Wheel of Fortune, right? But on Switch 1, I swear to God, that game is held together by glue and prayers, and it just was so janky. And so we decided to play our first game on Switch 2, and I was thinking, it's Wheel of Fortune. It's not going to be one of those games that's improved by Switch 2. Wrong. It is improved across the board. It is 60 FPS everywhere. It suddenly feels like a game that's not just held together by glue and prayers. It's that you wouldn't know where to find the biggest improvements from Switch 1 to Switch 2, but here we are with Wheel of Fortune. Really strange thing. But really the main thing, my main takeaway from the first week is from a video that you and I did together, Steve, where we tested out Game Chat and GameShare, and with John, actually, all 3 of us. And I'm still, days later, just shook by just how well it just works. Yeah, we had some issues here and there in terms of, connectivity, and we had to restart a couple of sessions a couple of times. But by and large, Game Chat and Game Share just work, and it's just really impressive to me. And
so I want to take a
that's so funny. We
moment
just
here
lose John as we're talking about it. That's so funny.
Oh
Yeah.
no. What have we done?
That's so funny. Nintendo's trolling me. Yeah.
Our experience with Game Chat has been largely good. I think
I'm back.
this is where
That's so funny.
this has happened.
My my Switch was inactive for so long that it just turned off.
So it wasn't
go.
a game chat
John's
issue.
cutting.
Time out.
Oh.
Undefeated.
So thank God it wasn't a game chat issue. Oh my
No, it
God.
wasn't a game chat issue, it was a John issue.
Wait, well, that's a good thing then. That means game chat does just work.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's what I was saying was my main takeaway from the first week is just how impressed I was by Game Chat and especially GameShare, turning games that essentially were never online into online experiences. And that was a fun video to be a part of. And I'm just looking forward to having more time. Just really, again, I've been bedridden a lot of the time and I haven't played much Mario Kart World, but what I have, I've really enjoyed. And I'm just looking forward to getting more time, recovering, making more content with you guys. But yeah, to say it's been a weird week, just getting sick at the same time as the Switch 2 launch it would be an understatement. But I'm having a great time so far.
Coming into this launch, I felt like there wasn't that much. I thought it was just going to be Mario Kart and a few cool third-party ports like Street Fighter. But there's so much. Like, there's overwhelmingly too much. Not just talking about the actual Switch 2 games. I'm talking about all those free updates. There are like 10 Switch 1 games made to be 1440p, and some of them have new features as well. Of course, the entire back library works. Like, you can play like problematic games like Dragon Quest Builders 2 at 60 FPS now. There's all that GameShare stuff. There's GameCube stuff. I barely touched GameCube stuff because there's just too much in there. It really just feels like there's so much to do on the console alone, let alone the actual library.
I think bringing up Wheel of Fortune is good too, because that's been really surprising to me as well. It's like there's a lot of games that don't come to the forefront of my mind that eventually I just try. Like I'm doing another Switch 1 comparison video, and one of the games in that is Monster Hunter Stories 2, which I don't think I realized had an uncapped frame rate. But when I turned it on, it was locked 60 FPS, and that was such a pleasant surprise.
We love uncapped frame rates now. Uncap them all.
So cool.
Oh yeah.
Make them 60.
Right?
I desperately need to check out some of my old Switch games that run very poorly. Like, I have Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2. When the Switch came out in 2017, I desperately wanted all the launch games, and so I found out that was one of the few Japan-only launch games, so I imported it, and I played it a little bit, and I was like, this runs terribly. And I kind of put it down. But yeah, I need to take my card and put it in my Switch 2 and see how it runs. I have faith that it might actually be better now.
We also learned...
So we played Resident Evil 5 together, which is 1080p, but it's uncapped. So on Switch 1, it's between 30 FPS and 40 FPS. Now, just 60 all the time.
Nice.
Yeah, it ran beautifully.
We're all in the midst of discovering different games that are that the others wouldn't have tried by now. Like, I've been trying I mentioned earlier with you guys in a different call, the Tales of series games. Yeah. Tales of Vesperia actually only ran 60 FPS during battles, and everywhere else it kind of would dip around 30, 40 or so. But now everywhere it's 60 FPS during cutscenes, on the map, on during towns, everywhere. It's actually fully flowing smoothly at 60 FPS. Tales of Symphonia is still a disaster. Don't bother. Just don't play it. Still garbage.
Yeah. I mean, if a game was 30, it's not going to change. Brandon found an extreme example with Disney Valley something.
Disney Dreamlight Valley.
Yeah. Apparently that still runs badly. But maybe as a joke they programmed it to run badly.
It's not as bad as Switch 1, obviously, but it's still hitching, it's still stuttering, it's not 60 frames per second. That game's just a mess.
I think it's just a mess in general, but I think it still struggled in on the Xbox Series S.
Really? Wow.
When we had Game Pass for a little bit, that's how Amy first started playing it, and I don't think it's hard to tell because her Valley wasn't as built up as it is now, but it never seemed to run good. That game struggles at all times, so it's probably better, but not great. Oh yeah.
Wow. It's it just sounds like a more extreme version of Animal Crossing. Once you really start to fill out your island, it starts to chug along on Switch 1. But apparently a lot of that's been relieved now too, right?
That has been changed. You can go to those problem islands and there's no more popping, there's no more frame rate. Just 30 the whole time.
You know, it's also
the
been
exciting
interesting.
thing
Oh, good.
about the exciting thing about a lot of these games that we're talking about that didn't get free updates is that they still might, because we just learned yesterday that Splatoon 3 is getting a free update tonight as of recording this.
Tell me about it.
So there could be more.
I'm so excited for the prospect of this because obviously there are some games that just work that are just across the board better because, like John mentioned, the developers left the frame rate uncapped, which means they can just utilize the additional horsepower of the Switch 2 to be better. But I want to reel us back in a bit to talk specifically about Switch 2 edition games, like the ones that Nintendo has decided to put the Switch 2 branding across. And I'm just gonna blurt my favorite Switch 2 edition out right now. That's gonna be Tears of the Kingdom. For me, it's a simple, like no contest kind of thing. Between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like Tears ran a bit worse thanks to all the physics with Ultra Hand and stuff. Not seeing those things happen makes that game feel just magical to me. And Brandon, I have a feeling I know where you're going to end up on this, but now that John booted himself from the call and rejoined, you're now second in line.
Oh, no.
So, Brandon, what's
He
your
lost his
favorite
position.
Switch 2 edition?
It's Breath of the Wild, which is
No
funny
way.
because Tears of the Kingdom is my favorite between the two. I prefer Tears of the Kingdom, but I'm choosing. I said this in my review, but I'm choosing to play Breath of the Wild on Switch 2 because I haven't replayed it since the game came out. I've never played through Master Mode, so this is a great vehicle for me to get to experience that. And yeah, one of the ways I described it in the review is like getting prescription glasses for the first time because that game is so buzzy and kind of blurry on Switch 1, but it's clear as crystal on Switch 2. It's magical.
It's funny you say that because I experienced this weird phenomena. I was watching Rosie play Breath of the Wild last night while I was typing up a script for the eventual review of the console, and my eyes struggle watching her play Breath of the Wild because I'm like, it looks wrong. Like it shouldn't be that smooth. It shouldn't be that clear. And my eyes are like, there's some cognitive dissonance there. Like I'm seeing the game wrong. And I was like, I just can't. There's something in my brain that just feels like it's off about this.
I know
but
exactly
in a good
what
way.
you mean. Yeah.
I did find, again, I mentioned this in the review, but like Tears of the Kingdom still can drop all the way to 30 FPS if you're using advanced builds in like high enemy situations. But as soon as you get off your vehicle, you can see it in my footage. As soon as I jumped off that vehicle I was riding, it shot right back to 60 frames per second.
Yeah, it's what Echoes of Wisdom did, isn't it? It's the double buffer VSync, just brings it down to 30.
So I wonder if that can be addressed at some point in the future, or if that's just going to be a limitation it has. But it's not a deal breaker. The majority of the game is still 60 frames per second.
Yeah, the coolest part about Tears of the Kingdom is on Switch 1, anytime you changed your item or fused something to your bow, it would pause for like a second. Like there's that second pause when like a bomb on your arrow or a key's eye or something. Yeah, that's gone. You just put something on, it's there. You know, there's no waiting around anymore.
But even like using Ascend used to take eons if you were doing it from the depths to the surface. On Switch 2, it's so much faster.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
This works out for me because there's a lot of Switch 1 games that I simply have not had a chance to play or finish, such as Tears of the Kingdom. So that's the Switch 2 edition I'm looking most forward to because, hey, this works out. I had never finished it. So now I have the best way to play it. And it kind of works like that for a lot of games for me where like, I remember, Ash, you saying that Octopath Traveler 2 didn't run the best on Switch 1. I'm assuming it's going to run pretty well.
Yeah, now it's great.
Yeah, I'm going to assume it's going to run pretty well because that's the version I got. So
that's awesome. Yeah, no, I played Octopath 2 on PS5 at 60, and it was just nothing wrong with 30 FPS, but playing that game at 60 was prettier and it looked better. And I mean, you've got that to look forward to.
And the same thing with I've not played through Scarlet and Violet, so bam, I got
those
the
are the
best
most
version
blessed
of that.
people in the world. They get to play that game fresh
for
in
real.
the clearest way possible. That's like one of the biggest Switch 2 games right now, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, because it's just so transformative. But Steve was asking about Switch 2 editions, and another really transformative one is No Man's Sky. That got announced the day before the system came out. It's a free update that turns No Man's Sky into a Switch 2 game. And it was super impressive that No Man's Sky worked in the first place on Switch 1. Like, it was always really cool that functioned. But it ran at like 24 frames per second. Really low resolution, really low res textures. Just didn't look very good. Now, it looks like the PS4 game in the palm of your hands. They put them side by side, which we have. And it's just this generational, like 2-generational leap. Wild upgrade.
Bonkers. So I did not know about this until I saw your video, John, and I went out to the eShop and bought No Man's Sky immediately upon watching your video, because I've played a ton of it on PlayStation 4, and obviously when I saw the Switch version, that was not for me. I did not want that game whatsoever, but when I saw just how incredible the upgrade was on that, I saw that it was on sale for half off, I think. It was like $20, and so I just went out and grabbed it and grabbed the Switch 2 update, and I cannot wait to play this game portably. Like, it is one of the most intriguing games out there, and to have it like with seemingly zero compromises on a portable platform is just nuts.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's also interesting to see like how a lot of these Switch 2 games that are also available on other like PC handhelds like Steam Deck are often performing better on Switch 2, just because they're being developed directly for the hardware. And Switch 2 obviously has some other hardware features like DLSS and things like that the other platforms don't have. And it's so weird to see that, and being a Nintendo fan, because we're just not used to it.
Yeah, there's a bigger story to share there. But in the run up to like when we were all preparing internally here at GVG for the Switch 2 launch and testing things, like Brandon made us this comparison template. You've seen it in a ton of our videos, but Brandon actually made the template we plugged that footage into. And one of the first things I did was I took the Cyberpunk B-roll that got out, and I captured similar footage on the Steam Deck and put them side by side. And the Steam Deck looks so much worse. Like it's really, really bad by comparison. And I was blown away by that. At that point, I was like, wow, Switch 2 is going to be something incredible. But I don't want to get too far off topic. Daniel, what is your favorite Switch 2 edition currently?
So I've played Mario Kart World and a lot of F-Zero GX.
Do we count F-Zero GX as a Switch 2 edition?
I count it.
Hell yeah,
Does it run better?
So F-Zero
It's HD
GX
and
has
widescreen.
native widescreen mode.
Sure.
You can play it with a crazy enhanced resolution. You can button map if you're not using the GameCube controller. There's a bunch of cool options you can do with that, honestly. You actually have to button map if you're using a Pro controller. There's some functions that you can't use that are comfortable with the shape of the buttons layout.
Right, because like A is accelerate and Y is boost, so there's no way you can.
Yeah.
You've got to remap.
You gotta map X to boost or something, and there's some buttons that don't get used, so you can it's nice to be able to freely remap all that with the NSO GameCube and just all of them, honestly. With N64, with all those, I was playing with N64 a bit, and the CRT filter with that too.
Oh, dude, yeah.
That's really nice. It's so weird. Like, I was just doing a little bit of Ocarina of Time with the CRT, and I was like, man, this feels kind of nostalgic, even though it's just like a little bit of a that scanline CRT with a slight vignette going around the screen as well. Like it's actually, it almost makes the screen look a bit curved, like it's a CRT screen. That's
It's
crazy.
a really nice filter. CRT filters can go one of two ways. This one's really nicely aligned with the pixels, so it's pretty accurate. But N64 games in general, I think, are really ugly in HD. Those HUDs just stick out, and you get 2D games like Paper Mario and Harvest Moon, they're ugly in HD. But you put a CRT filter on Paper Mario, suddenly looks really good, like really good.
Yeah, I did the tiniest little analysis when they displayed Kirby 64 as the what they demonstrated with. The edges are just nicely smoothed out. They're actually blending in the way they're meant to, like the actual art direction was supposed to have them. Having everything clear and sharp isn't always the best way to go for certain games, and this makes a lot of those games feel a lot more natural and just smoother.
Yeah, it makes
But yeah,
sense. The
that's
argument's been made for years that these graphics were designed with the displays of their time in mind. And Brandon has become a floating chin.
Brandon, what are you doing?
I love it.
He's abusing game chat right now. But
I
anyway,
need
He
one of
seems
these
to be
cameras.
bathing in tapioca pudding.
Tastes good.
That's an image I won't forget.
Right.
But so Daniel's favorite Switch 2 edition, I'm going to say it's essentially the concept of the GameCube, which I approve of.
Yeah.
All right, Ash,
Yeah,
you're up next. Go ahead,
right.
Daniel. Sorry.
Oh no,
Go
it's
ahead,
fine. I mean, I'm probably going to be playing Pokemon Scarlet and Violet more, just to like get some more impressions, possibly do some kind of comparison with it. So that's probably going to be the next Switch 2 edition, or Switch 1 performance patch edition that I'm going to be doing most after this. So
Nice.
it just looks nice.
Me too. Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to have to agree with Brandon. Breath of the Wild broke my brain when I first saw it, kind of like what you said, Steve. And even though, like you, Brandon, I do think Tears of the Kingdom is the better game across, Breath of the Wild was more fascinating to me in this instance because it's the older game. And I have, like you, I haven't played it since I finished it years ago now. So returning to, the original Breath of the Wild and it buttery smooth, it just looks wrong, but also so right, right? But also, so I'm not just basically saying what you said again. I will also couch it by saying this: ask me again in 2.5 months, and I'm pretty sure my answer is going to be Kirby and Forgotten Land because I'm so excited for that
I'm
Switch
excited
2
for that
edition. I am so hyped for that, man. So right now it's Breath of the Wild, but I think it's going to be Kirby once we get there.
I mean, that's going to be
Yeah.
transformative, though, isn't it? Because Kirby,
It
like,
is.
if something was like a meter from Kirby, it would run at 15 frames per second.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
the game's 60 FPS now, but much like Pokemon, it doesn't have that low frame rate. If something's too far off from you, it's just going to run terribly. It's going to look great.
It's going to look crazy, and of course you've got the new content coming as well. But I'm planning a full replay of the original game and then just going into the new content, just because that game was so delightful to begin with, and to get to experience it all at 60 is just going to be, I think, very transformative, like Breath of the Wild has been for me.
Mm.
All right, and finally, Derek, what is your favorite Switch 2 edition that you've been messing around with?
Well, much like the others, I haven't really had a chance to mess around. Like Daniel, I haven't had a chance to mess around with the Switch 2 edition, but that's why I mentioned Tears of the Kingdom, because that's almost a completely new experience waiting for me. I only went through 2 dungeons and maybe third of the map the time I played beforehand. And I haven't had a chance to really boot it up and see what it's like. But I have a whole pile of games I would love to just see what it is. But I'm very much also like Ash, where I'm really looking forward to what they do with Kirby, how Kirby plays, and that new content, because God, I had a lot of fun with Forgotten Land. So that's just a
Great game.
Get it back there. I could easily go back through. I even played it relatively recently because my son Kai was interested, so he played a little bit of it. Didn't beat the game or anything like that. Through the early stages, he had fun. He enjoyed himself. So it's one of those things where I have a clearer point of reference this time around, and it's a matter of finding time to play those old games once again. And there's such a long lineup of like, man, I want to see how this plays. I want to see how this looks. What this is like. Yeah.
2 more a second. One,
Sure.
Bowser's Fury. That the resolution is crazy high. That was really low res on Switch. Whenever Bowser appeared, it would dip. It dipped even when Bowser wasn't there sometimes. Now it's 60 FPS, 1440p. Lovely. Captain Toad, online play with GameShare.
Yeah. That was so cool.
I've only seen you guys. How is it? I've only watched you guys play. What was it like?
The fact that you all had individual control of your cameras, that blew my mind.
That's the key. That's the key.
Yeah. So I've been playing Captain Toad every night since we did that video. My wife and I are playing through the game in GameShare, and we have kind of a unique setup where in our game room we each have a TV. So when I'm sitting playing, I can just look to my right and see what she sees, and it's just like we're playing on two local copies. Like it feels no different to, if she had the game herself and we were both playing it, other than the fact that you have the obvious, like, you're using GameShare bar and the reduced screen size. But other than that, there's no latency, there's no difference. We were solving puzzles and going through and finding gems and just having a blast playing this game together. And it's taken a game that I wrote off on Switch 1 just because I'm like, I played it on Wii U. I don't need to really play through the whole thing again. And now I'm just having the time of my life with it all over again.
And
Steve,
Captain Toad. So you go ahead, Ash.
I said, Steve, I remember when we were recording for our video, and it was literally a light bulb moment. The moment we realized we had individual camera control, we were like,
oh yeah.
Oh, damn, this is cool.
Yeah, Captain Toad's got a lot of extra stuff on the Switch too. Like there's Odyssey levels for one, but there's also DLC which is made around multiplayer. So you can play every level co-op, but there's specifically multiplayer levels that you can download. And that's gonna be amazing online.
Yeah, already I'm having way more fun with it just because of the inclusion of GameShare, but I'll probably download those levels now. I do want to also similarly shout out Clubhouse games. Because John, you were the one that turned us on to the fact that also had like an asymmetrical view over GameShare. And I had no idea that was true. I had just popped into like Connect 4 and tried that, and I was like, neat, it works. But we played not Uno, and that was a really cool experience to see that everybody had different cards. And in the GameShare video we posted, I actually put your view, John, and mine like side by side, so people could see that we were looking at completely different views while playing the same game. And that was just rad. Like it's perfect for something like that.
Does GameShare work over local wireless, or is it only online?
It does. It does.
Yeah, it's both.
One thing I want to point out is that doing Switch 2 to Switch 1 GameShare with a Switch 2 game runs horribly. Like it is not an experience anyone should want. It's almost like you're being punished for playing a Switch 2 game on the Switch 1. Like
I've been next to someone back on Switch 1 playing local wireless game. I think it was Smash that we were playing, and it was lagging. We were right next to each other. Switch 1's wireless was not up to the task for anything.
It's pretty
Was it
bad,
ever,
yeah.
to be fair?
Yeah.
No, the answer is no. I will say this though, GameShare Switch 1 game to Switch 1, like if you're playing a Switch 1 game on a Switch 2
Sure.
and the other Switch 1 is playing that, it does seem to work okay. Like we played Big Brain Academy that way, and that worked fine. But then the minute I did any Switch 2 game like Fast or Split Fiction, it was just a slideshow.
I also want to shout out Super Mario Odyssey.
Yeah.
Because the
New
first
Donk
thing I
City.
did when I loaded it up, is I went to New Donk City. And on Switch 1, NPCs in the background would run at like 5-6 FPS if they were far away. And that's just gone, completely gone from New Donk City with the Switch 2 pre-update.
I have to try that. I haven't done that yet.
The text to speech to text called it New Dong City.
Yeah. Perfect.
Gotta enunciate there.
Thank you, Switch 2. Super
Dong
Mario Odyssey.
City.
Super Mario Odyssey is another game I might do a full replay of, because that not having dynamic resolution and distant low FPS, I don't know, that's just mind blowing to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like another one that would be able to replay. Also, as we were talking, we were just laughing a minute ago about some of the stuff that the speech to text gets wrong. But I do want to call out that feature as being shockingly well implemented. I mean, something like this is never going to be perfect, but as an accessibility feature, being such an important thing, they did a good job with it, and you get the gist of what's being said, and I think it's pretty accurate most of the time. But obviously, you get New Donk City sometimes. But I love that they implemented this at all, because Nintendo in the past are not always known for their amazing approach to accessibility. And here, they seem like they've gone a step further than they normally would have for accessibility, and I like seeing that.
Yeah, totally.
And looking at all these Switch 2 editions of games, it's like I would like to go back and play a lot of these, but I don't got time to just like, I'm gonna do a full playthrough of Breath of the Wild, I'm gonna do a full playthrough of Mario Odyssey. Like it's not gonna happen.
No.
And it's a bit interesting because when you look at this, like this really benefits people like us the most because we have this back catalog, this library already on the Switch 1, moving on to the Switch 2. So this appeals most to us. But there are some people who like maybe they had a Switch 1 for just a little while. They had maybe just a few games for it, like maybe Animal Crossing, for example. Like the appeal isn't there as much for them because they'd have to buy all these games from scratch to be able to enjoy a lot of them. And there's like to them the only new game is like what Mario Kart World and the Welcome Tour. Like that's the only actual new titles. Everything else is just ports, Switch 2 editions and everything. So I'm wondering like how appealing this will be going forward. At least until more new titles come out like DK Bonanza.
I mean, that's a great question, Daniel. Because after Bonanza, well, we know games, but we don't really know the roadmap. Like we know Kirby,
right?
The Splatoon spin-off. We know Hyrule Warriors. Those are cool games. I'm going to play them. I'm sure I'll love them, but they're also not the A-tier games. They're the spin-off games. So, like, yeah, what is the roadmap? We don't know.
I'm really glad you brought that up because I was about to ask the whole panel the same thing. With the Switch 1, we had Breath of the Wild, which was like a very obvious, broad appeal, event in gaming. And while Mario Kart World is a fantastic game and I love it, I don't think it has that same kind of, for lack of a better term, like star power that Breath of the Wild had. It doesn't have that must-have quality.
See, I disagree with that. I think it's the sort of silent. It's much like Mario Kart 8. I think it's the silent, just consistent workhorse. It's not the flash. It doesn't have the flashiness. You're correct of Zelda, but this is a Mario Kart game. You pick up a Switch 2, you're gonna get Mario Kart World. It's just gonna be the workhorse of the Switch 2. Exactly. It's the game you get. But as a something that maybe appeal to somebody who has not gotten a Switch yet, you're right. It may not have that quality yet. That being said, the sales numbers that come out after the first 4 days, not sure it matters.
I mean, it's the best-selling console ever, right? But no, you are right. I think there's two factors to this, though. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the best-selling Switch game, yeah. But it was an evergreen, so it never really stopped. I think it was helped by other system sellers. So, like, when Smash came along, people bought the console for Smash and picked up Mario Kart with it. When Tears of the Kingdom came along, people picked up Tears of the Kingdom, got Mario Kart with it. Animal Crossing, Mario Kart with it. Like, it's that supplement game. And so it's kind of weird for it to be on its own. Obviously, that's going to change as the life cycle goes on. Like, next month it's going to be Donkey Kong. Oh, pick up Mario Kart. But it's strange for it to be the showrunner, though.
I think when your options are between Mario Kart and Donkey Kong to launch your console, I think Mario Kart is still the clear
you're right.
choice.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this game is still like at its most bare bones state as it would be. Like it's going to have more content coming down the line throughout the entire Switch 2 cycle. But it's just at a weird place right now because it's just released. It's on its own, as you guys said, and there's like that's all the content that's there at the moment. It's as bare as we're going to see it in its lifetime.
It's also like the Switch 2 is a big social console. They're really pushing game chat, which is where we're doing this conversation right now.
Yeah.
And Mario Kart World is, no pun intended, the vehicle for that. Like, this is how you show it off.
You are right. I do wonder if the lack of a roadmap is to sort of push people towards DK. Because Donkey Kong is a big brand, right? But he's not had a game in like a decade.
Right.
And I don't think he has that star power. People are shrugging off Bonanza right now. But if you think back to the Switch 1, ARMS sold like 3.5 million units. People call it a failure, but it sold quite well. And I think the reason for that is because there wasn't that much to choose from at that time.
I
So
was
wonder if
actually
they're
going to bring
trying
up that exact same point because
Yeah.
it's feeling very similar to Switch One right now, where you had the big launch games, you had some solid ones, and you had a little bit coming after that because it was Mario Kart 8 was a month after Breath of the Wild in the same way that Bonanza is a month after Mario Kart World, and even then we're like, what else is coming out? And then all of a sudden by the end of the year we have Odyssey, we have Xenoblade Chronicles 2, we have just all these amazing games that 2017 just stands out as a fantastic first year for the Switch One. And I think it's entirely possible Nintendo could pull off the same thing here.
Oh, yeah.
And to some degree, we have an even clearer roadmap because we have the Switch 2 editions with Mario Party and Kirby and
Metroid Prime.
and Metroid Prime 4
Prime
at some
4.
point. Like that, we know of some games. It's just a matter of when they're coming. So I think Nintendo kind of is following that same roadmap, and it's kind of working for them.
That explains why Dragon Drive's coming out this summer.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's the arms of this generation.
I'm a little baffled by how Nintendo has positioned the launch of the Switch 2. It's clearly working, like you said, Derek. 3.5 million units sold. They've done something right. But I also agree with John that Mario Kart, I think Nintendo themselves view Mario Kart World as a supplementary title, which is why, they've shipped so many bundles with the game at a discounted rate. If there's one thing we know about Nintendo is that if they view a game as a marquee title that will bring people into shops to buy the console, they're not going to cut you a deal. They're not going to give you a cheaper price. They will charge you the full $80. There's a reason that Breath of the Wild is still $60 on Switch One right now. And it's because Nintendo is confident that they can sell it to you for that price. And I think that they don't have that same level of confidence with Mario Kart World that you're going to go out and pay $80 for Mario Kart because the Mario Kart brand is almost like the same way we view Q-tips or Kleenex, right? Like people know Mario Kart without necessarily knowing what the latest one is or what console it's on. You'll find people today, right now, that'll go into a store and buy a PlayStation and ask if they can get Mario Kart on it. It transcends gaming to a degree. And so I think that Nintendo, in an ideal world where they could have lined up the Switch 2 launch exactly how they want, they would have had a new Zelda or a new 3D Mario or Metroid Prime 4 available on day one alongside Mario Kart. Like John said, you'll get your people who will walk in, buy their console, buy the game they actually came for and go, oh, well, everybody I know loves Mario Kart and grab that as well. So I do think it's kind of an interesting spot, and I think Nintendo probably did at some point look at the data and say Mario Kart can carry us for a while, which is why Donkey Kong is kind of hot on its heels. But I agree with John. Donkey Kong's also not really like a big system seller.
Mario Kart can carry them for approximately 8 years.
And I do have a lot of faith in Donkey Kong. I think this is probably going to be the game that makes it an A-star. But it needs to prove it, and I think the way to prove it is to kind of force everybody to play it by not really having much else to choose from.
Yeah,
I think Donkey Kong Bonanza also needs to have like another trailer, that kind of Mario Odyssey moment where you discover what the real if there's something else about that game that we don't know yet, like Happy. And I there's some leaks that's kind of leading to that we haven't really seen expounded upon just quite yet. But I mean, we're still waiting to see what becomes of that as of right now. And Nintendo's just holding that until they think the time is right. Probably in the next direct.
I also think that Donkey Kong Bonanza, as we get closer to launch, is going to reveal how much closer it is to the Mario brand than they've let on.
This is the least Donkey Kong game. This is the least Donkey Kong game I've ever played, and I mean that in a complimentary sense.
Game.
It's a Mario game. It is Koizumi's team.
Yeah.
It's so funny you say that because I did that analysis, just that short analysis, looking through things frame by frame, and I spotted Kremlings in there. So this seems like it could be the true merger of the Rare era and Nintendo era of Donkey Kong. So he has just one cohesive world now.
That'd be cool.
Kremlings are just part of it.
Yeah, goes beyond just a redesign. Yeah.
They also reference like DKC3 in the map, which is so like they never do that.
Right.
It's just they're taking from these corners. And you can tell it's built off Odyssey. Even photo mode is the exact same UI. So that there's a lot of faith just in that alone, that this is kind of the Odyssey sequel, and Odyssey is 8 years old now. So
I mean, even the way you
has a
find
lot.
bananas, like
it's the same
that's
thing.
just the power mode.
Yeah.
The way you find bananas, the UI,
They're
where when they're
crescent
talking,
shapes.
they have like.
Yeah, as an aside to this whole thing, just as a fun Nintendo in general, Brandon and I were in New York, playing all the Switch 2 games that they were letting us play, and I had asked our PR handler at that event if it was in fact the Odyssey team making Bonanza, and he was like, I can't tell you that, very Nintendo answer, like, can't comment on that, won't comment on that. As behind us during this conversation, Yoshiaki Koizumi is looking over the shoulders of people playing the game. And I'm like,
so funny.
Yeah.
We'll never know who made it.
Who could it be? We've been saying that there aren't that many, Switch 2 games beyond Mario Kart. Obviously, what I'm going to talk about are mostly ports, but there are. Street Fighter 6, amazing on Switch 2.
Yes.
And back on the 3DS, my most played launch title was Street Fighter 4, because it was just so cool having a portable version of that game. And now we have the same scenario, but completely uncompromised. The backgrounds aren't frozen like they were on the 3DS. It's just pure Street Fighter 6. And one of the coolest parts about this is I don't pay for PSN every month like I do Switch Online, because Switch Online is much cheaper. And so I don't really have access to Street Fighter 6 in the same way I used to on PS5. Whereas now, it's part of the cheapest subscription fee. It's super easy to play online, super easy to play on the sofa in handheld mode. Rocks, just a rock solid ball.
And that's a big selling point for me. Like, I haven't picked it up yet, but I'm eyeing it, especially after Season 3 just got announced. I'm like, how do I want to get this?
Yeah,
because I have it on PS5, but I don't pay for
6.
PSN, so I'm like, no, I'm missing out on a lot of what it is. I just wish there was cross progress. I wish I could carry my progress over from PS5.
Yeah,
cross progression missing is a huge bummer for me. I've put about 300 hours into Street Fighter 6 on PS5. But that being said, it does give me an eye for the detail on the Switch 2 version, and like John said, in motion, it is nigh indistinguishable from like if you really look, then yeah, you'll see trade-offs that were made. Like, for instance, there's no depth of field effect, there's no motion blur. But if you're just playing the game, like you're actually just playing it and you're not analyzing it, you're really not going to see that much of a difference. I play on a 65-inch 4K TV, and I've played a ton of Street Fighter on both platforms now on that TV, and I never feel like the Switch 2 version has left me wanting for anything. And when you shrink it down to handheld mode, it's impossible to tell the difference.
Calling it the Switch version, calling it the Switch one, or calling it the Switch version is almost doing the game a disservice, because people will have a preconception about that. Oh, this is going to be the watered down Nintendo version. But it's really not.
No, it's basically the exact same game. We're no longer in that that scenario where you'd water down handheld games to bring them there. Like back on GBA, DS, they would never be the same game. Switch kind of tried that, but it'd always be compromised. Like Mortal Kombat, drastically compromised. Now we've just got the damn same game.
Well, and we've got another example of that to look forward to, seeing how they deliver with Final Fantasy VII Remake Integrate. That's coming later this year. And I'm really curious to see how that port turns out.
I mean, that has its roots as a PS4 game, so I'm sure it's going to be fine. But we did a small comparison in one of the news updates, and they're using PS5's lighting. So it is taking from the current gen version too, which is super interesting.
I think that's a key point, just because Rebirth is all but likely coming to it as well.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely
the way they're talking, and honestly, I would imagine that Square might even be looking at how it did Final Fantasy 16 on the Switch too. Multi-platform is a key point for Square going forward, I think. So having it on the Switch too, for these bigger games, like these AAA games, like not just your Dragon Quest 3 HD 2Ds or your Octopath, having the premier, really expensive looking games on the Switch too, I think is going to be pretty key for them, because games just sold really well on the Switch. Like Mortal Kombat X or 11 or whatever it was on the Switch 1, that didn't look great. best-selling version. Like that did not matter just because
Yeah.
people wanted it on the Switch.
I mean, that's a big
Yeah, you're
is the Switch. It was fairly capable, but it also wasn't capable for some big games, and that kind of left it empty in some genres. There aren't that many racing games on the Switch One. There aren't that many first-person shooters on the Switch One. Especially like you can get stuff like the 360 era, like there's BioShock and all that. But when you look at current stuff, it's kind of empty. Switch 2, it's probably going to get the bulk of AAA releases, and it's legally obliged to get Call of Duty, so that's going to come probably this year. So it's a really different scenario.
I mean, the quote unquote current generation of consoles too. Like even now, a lot of those games are still coming to last gen systems, and I think we're hitting that point in the console cycles where the next generational leap isn't so much a leap anymore. And I think because of that, Switch 2 is going to be able to scale a lot of these games for a lot longer than I think Switch 1 did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're at a point visually where games seem to be sitting between PS4 Pro and PS5 in terms of visual fidelity and presentation. Like Cyberpunk, for instance, I know John and I both picked that one up. It's deeply impressive on Switch 2. I know I talked about the comparison between the Steam Deck and the Switch 2 versions, but realistically, it looks far better than the notorious PS4 version, and it doesn't look too much worse than the PS5 version. It's somewhere in a comfortable middle ground there, and when you play it, particularly in handheld mode, it is just a breathtaking experience to see this huge, open dystopian city with this gorgeous lighting, and you're able to just drive around and hop out and shoot, and I remember how impressed we were when Doom came to the Switch, and the fact that it existed at all, and it's got nothing on Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is kind of the high watermark for can a console or PC do a thing. This is your kind of this generation's crisis, and it runs admirably on Switch.
It's basically a current gen game with how poorly the last gen version ran. And a really cool part of Cyberpunk as well is it does drop frames, but when you're playing in handheld mode, because it's VRR, it's actually really hard to perceive that. And I think that's really important because a lot of people don't have VRR displays. There's a bunch of people out there who don't have 4K displays or HDR displays. So the Switch 2 screen, just having that in there, lets people know exactly what that is. 120 hertz as well. Right now, I think Welcome Tour might be the only 120 hertz game that we have right now.
That is technically true.
Cyberpunk technically is, because it uses that refresh rate because of the 40 FPS. Yeah.
Same situation with Street Fighter 6. If you look in your I didn't even realize it, but I plugged, I was capturing, and Elgato's capture tool will tell you what the input FPS is, and it's 119. I was like, wow, okay. I didn't know that it's flipping into 120 FPS mode for that.
I'll bet you anything too. Looking ahead to 2026 really quick, I bet you anything Rhythm Heaven Groove on Switch 2 is going to be 120.
Oh, it will. It for sure.
It's totally going to be. And that's going to be a treat. Yeah, Metroid Prime 4 is good. Yeah.
Shinen have said that Fast Fusion can get 120 hertz, so that's cool when that gets patched in. Fast Fusion rocks, by the way. A bit slow because you only get the default speed. You've got to work your way through the cups to unlock the faster ones. Same is true with RMX. The weirdest thing about Fast Fusion, though, is there's no online play, which RMX had, or Racing Neo had. The only way to play multiplayer is GameShare, which feels like a trade-off. I mean, GameShare's cool, but I kind of wanted to play this game online there.
I was looking forward to playing it online too, but I mentioned this to you guys before we started recording. I think it might be that the player base for Fast RMX just didn't last very long.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Right.
It's a shame all the same, but I guess understandable somewhat.
Yeah, you don't want to put resources into something that, unfortunately, not many people are going to use.
True.
Which is a shame, because it's only a $15 game.
Yeah.
I think a lot of companies are going to be looking at the sales numbers of the Switch too. Not that they didn't expect it to do well, but I feel like they're looking at what's the comparisons, the specs, all that stuff, I think we're going to definitely see a drive to get a lot of games on Switch 2 now. Like here comes Doom: The Dark Ages probably, and just as many as Clair Obscure, and just name.
Oh yeah, Clair Obscure is coming for sure.
It's gotta be.
AAA
It's gotta
game.
be. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of like we were talking about Square Enix earlier. I'm curious to see what Atlas is going to put on here because we're already getting Raito remastered, and then we're going to get games like Metaphor Refantasia is probably going to be on there. Persona 3 Reload. They're probably going to most guaranteed have Persona 4 Revival there as well.
Yeah.
If they can get that as a
forward.
simultaneous launch, perfect.
I mean, right now it seems like third parties just can't announce games, probably because they're held to a direct that's eventually coming. So we went through the summer game shows, and there's like no Switch 2 logo on anything. So we're probably trailers again in like a month when the direct happens, and just the same thing with a Switch 2 logo at the end.
Do we know what amounted to Switch 2's partnership with Summer Game Fest? Like there was
It was
a
an
big
ad.
hubbub
It was an
about
ad for Fortnite.
Well done.
People had all these
Fortnite wins
expectations. Like,
again.
no, don't expect anything. There's no way Nintendo's actually there.
Well, honestly, I hate to say this, but as someone who's attended Summer Game Fest before, I've never seen anything more than like token Nintendo participation. Like I think one year I went, they had the Mario movie van there, and that was it. And so I didn't really expect with the console launching, especially with kind of the weird vibe about reviews of the hardware. Like nobody got early access. I didn't really think that you'd just see a ton of Switch 2 stuff at Summer Game Fest this year. Maybe that'll change next year, but
There was
this year
nothing
was
there
definitely
this
a
year, I
wash.
can tell you that. Nothing there this year.
We're still waiting
Yeah.
for Nintendo's like equivalent E3 Direct.
I imagine we have to be getting one.
I would hope so. You know, Splatoon Raiders getting announced yesterday. That game's already rated in US and Europe. Like it's got to be ready to come out soon.
I don't think
Yeah.
that prevents a direct from coming out in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Like it is happening before Donkey Kong's release. I'm willing to bet
that's why I think there is a direct because they got to announce a release date now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
that's true. All right, so to kind of start wrapping things up here, now that we've all had a week with the hardware in our hands, I want each of us to go around and talk about one thing we love and one thing we hate about the Switch 2. My thing that I love is mouse mode. Like I have, since I did the video on it, I've been exploring more and more mouse mode implementations in games, and I am now fully hooked. More than anything, I like games that use both at the same time.
Yes.
Bravely Default has a rad as heck minigame that you can just get to without starting a save file. That lets you pilot the airship, and you've got to use both hands to like flip knobs and turn the wheel and control your altitude. And I'm addicted to it. It feels like a WarioWare minigame. And at the very end, out of nowhere, they have you swat flies like you do in Mario Paint. Like you just have to you get a fly swatter out and you start swatting their
That's
ghosts.
great.
But I was like, come on, you know what you did there. That's I love it.
Yeah.
Man, mouse mode's a huge deal though, because like with some console games you can plug a USB mouse in. It's cool when they allow that, but it's not versatile. And I think what's cool about mouse mode as well is it kind of goes beyond PC in multiple ways. So Welcome Tour has many ways where you twist the mouse as well. So not only are you moving it around, but you literally get motion controls to show where it's going. There's Rumble as well, which has a lot of functions, but the main thing is the left Joy-Con. So you're using the right Joy-Con as a mouse, left Joy-Con, full analog movement. With a PC, like the mouse is the showcase. The keyboard is just, that's part of a computer. It's not really for games unless they need lots of inputs. So with PC, you're moving with WASD, digital inputs. With a Joy-Con, you get full analog on the left stick with mouse mode on the right. It's flawless. It's perfect.
Yeah, you get real precision of movement and control with that. I'm still not like I've only played shooters through my OBS preview, so I've struggled. But I bought myself a little lap desk for my sofa so that I can do mouse mode while I play on my couch, which I'm gonna try. I'm gonna look like an octogenarian playing Fortnite, but I'm gonna give it a shot.
It's
I
fun to
do
even
have.
just play with.
Oh, go ahead.
It's fun to even just play with mouse mode, even on like the home menu. Like I was playing around with that. You can click with the shoulder buttons. You can hold and drag and slide across your games on the menu itself. You can use the right stick as like a scroll wheel. It's really intuitive.
It works
One
in
of
the
my
eShop
favorite
too.
experiences at the press event was playing the new Mario Party mini games. Because some of them, like you mentioned, Sean, utilized the motion control in tandem with mouse mode, and it felt so intuitive. Um, Honestly, like I anticipate just playing a lot of Mario Party just to play the mouse mini games because they're really cool. And playing mouse mini games in the same room as other people also using a mouse is such a weird like experience that doesn't happen outside of like LAN parties.
Yeah.
But now you can just do that on Switch.
That's a big thing too, right? You don't get local multiplayer mouse games, but you can on Switch too. There's one Welcome Tour game, the one with the UFOs we were avoiding the spikes. On the final difficulty version of that, you're doing 2 UFOs, a hand each, and you've got to collect the star time. I could not do it on my own, so I went to get Roxy and gave her the second Joy-Con, and we we're just co-oping a mouse game. And I've never had that experience before, because it just isn't done on PC.
That's so cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, that is absolutely. It's interesting to see, and I said this in the MouseCon video, but it's an hour and a half. I don't expect people to find me saying it. I am so excited for an eventual WarioWare that uses this technology, because that is just going to be so cool.
Oh man!
But
I already named it WarioWare. Get to the point.
There we go. I like it.
Nice.
Nintendo is going to take that from you. I guarantee
now
it.
They're going to pay me.
But there are things that I don't love about the Switch 2 also. It's not a perfect machine. It's lovely. I have to say the thing that bothers me the most currently, though, is the lack of VRR in docked mode.
You
and I know that's like an edge case.
I've got
It's just such a weird thing to have. If you have that technology in your TV, it feels like something Nintendo should be able to do in software. And it's really weird that they said it would have it and then changed course. And now we're here with the console, and certainly it's not there. And it's a basic part of the HDMI 2.1 spec. And it would go a long way towards, like you said, John, games like Cyberpunk look better in handheld mode because you've got that VRR on the display. And it feels like something Nintendo should be able to just flip on in the firmware of the Switch 2 or in the dock firmware, and it's just not here. And it's weird. It took Sony a while to do it too, so I'm hopeful it will come, but it's just a strange thing in 2025 to not have when the console itself has it.
Yeah, it took PS5 like a year, but it's weird all the same. They should have figured this out.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I'm still holding out hope. I don't think I think that they were confident enough to put it on the product page and suddenly discovered at the last minute maybe there was some kind of issue. But yeah, those are mine. Brandon, let's go ahead and hear from you.
Pro Controller. I love this thing so much.
Yeah.
So good.
Is it the best controller of all time? It might be.
Ooh.
This is like neck and neck with the DualSense for me. This is so nice. This is Nintendo's best controller they've ever made. That's for sure.
Ooh.
I think it's the best feeling controller I've ever used. The battery life, I hate the DualSense's battery life. You have to charge that thing all the time.
Yeah.
This is going to last you. It comes standard with the GL, GR, which are usually on premium controllers. The sticks, look, hear that? No, you can't, because it's silent. I love it.
The
headphone
guys
jack.
are underselling that. There's one feature here that I didn't even. I had to think about this. There's no seam on the sides.
No, there isn't. No.
Like,
There's no screws
place
either. It's they're under the plastic.
It's such a weird feel. Like it took me a while to figure out what was unsettling feeling about it to me. And I was like, there's not that side seam that I'm used to feeling on every controller that eventually fills up with the world's worst substances.
This controller also has the best feeling finish
He's right.
of any controller I've ever had.
Yeah,
Definitely.
It's impossible to describe as well because it's soft, and it's weird to describe soft plastic. It feels fluffy in your hands.
Yeah, it's like hugging
soft,
you back.
stable.
Yeah.
Also,
it feels
on the
premium.
previous Pro Controller.
We did a video yesterday or 2 days ago by the time this goes up on motion controls being better on Switch 2. And that's true for the Pro Controller as well. So you don't have to resync this as much. So when playing Splatoon, you can leave that Y button alone. It's going to be synced match.
Yeah, I also when playing through Breath of the Wild, I got Lucky Epona using my Twilight Princess amiibo, and I was playing with Wolf Link. And one thing I noticed is that scanning an amiibo on this is so much easier.
Super responsive.
Scanning an amiibo on the original Pro Controller is a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It is so finicky. The connection is weak, but here is so much better. I'm not like fiddling with my amiibo trying to get it to scan anymore. It's just instant now.
Yeah.
I have to point out that I love that the speech to text does not know how to spell amiibo.
Amiibo.
Amiibo. Yeah. Away.
A bobo.
Now, there are a couple things that I don't like, and I'm just going to pick the one that I think is probably the most annoying to me, and that's the battery life.
Sure.
I have been playing in handheld a whole lot, just because I only have one dock. I don't like having to move it from room to room, so most of the times at night, once I'm done working, I just take my Switch out of the dock, bring it to the living room, and just play in handheld mode. And it just doesn't last very long.
Yeah.
I think it might be slightly worse than the V1 Switch one in terms of battery life.
It depends what you're doing. If you're playing just a standard Switch 1 backwards compatible game, it can last a while. But with Mario Kart, yeah, that thing's gonna go pretty fast.
Yeah, and when I'm playing in handheld mode, typically I'm like free roaming in Mario Kart, or I'm playing Breath of the Wild, and my experience in both of those games has been very similar. The battery just tanks. I even noticed when I put it in sleep mode for even just a few minutes and turn it back on, it's lost 1% or 2%. That doesn't happen on my OLED.
Right.
Yeah, that is. I haven't hardly played in handheld mode very much, unfortunately. Like I just don't have time to sit down and like curl up with my Switch. I want to, but usually by the end of the day, I'm like, I don't want to look at any screens anymore. But yeah, the battery life. It's worth noting that we all were kind of singing a very similar tune in 2017 when we found out that you got like 3 hours in Breath of the Wild, right? And everyone was like, "What? 3 hours?" You know. And I know that the Switch 2 is a bit worse. But yeah, I guess Nintendo, as much as they've improved it, you know, there are some things that just they can't get around yet. And I imagine that, you know, like the Switch, in a couple years we'll get some kind of upgraded version of the Switch 2 that'll improve battery life or address other things that people don't like. But anyway, that's a conversation for like a year and a half from now. John, what are your like and dislike about the Switch 2 one weekend?
Well, you guys have chosen the best ones. There aren't that many more dislikes. I've got one in mind. As for the love the eShop. eShop is so snappy.
Yeah.
There's no longer that
Yeah.
you're straight into it, and you can just keep scrolling. It doesn't stop. You load a page, you click it, it's just there. I think the pages might actually load a bit faster than Xbox Series and PS5 do when you click on the actual storefront icon. It's either comparable or a little bit faster. I like the recommendations feature. It could still be more curated, of course. There's some crap on there, but there's also it's just so snappy and easy to navigate. Mouse mode works on there too, so you can just scroll and click things really easily. Videos load instantly. eShop's great. Love the eShop. As for what I don't love, I'm less aggressive on this than some, but game keycards. So the big problem with Switch 2 right now.
I hate those things so much.
Well, I mean, the big problem is you get games that are like Split Fiction. They're 72 gigabytes. They could have gone for 64 gig card and given like a small download.
Think of a different thing. Hold on.
Oh, sure.
Sorry.
Yeah. Well, no. When you go to like with Hitman and Street Fighter, they're game key cards. Switch 2 storage isn't vast. You start with 256 gigs. Sounds like a lot, but that's going to be taken up by like 5 games. You get a micro SD Express. They're expensive. Still filled up fairly quickly. I did a system transfer. It downloaded a bunch of my stuff. I had no space left on my system. I had to delete a bunch of stuff. And I still can barely store all of these modern games. I wish they were just on game cards, but Obviously, the realism there is the 64 gig cards are expensive, and most devs aren't going to go for them.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a bit of
Yeah.
an interesting situation. Although I will say, as somebody who is, going out and buying these, I do appreciate when they do that, and I'm more likely to buy the game. Like I went out and bought
Yeah.
Cyberpunk. It was the very first physical game I pre-ordered because I was like, I respect that they put that whole game on a card, and it's just kind of neat to have that. And honestly, I probably would have bought physicals of other Switch 2 games had they not been on game key cards. I still ended up buying a couple game key card games. I have Hitman because I wanted the Mario and Luigi DLC that came with the game key card edition, and I got Bravely Default because I know my wife wants to play it, and it'll be easier to swap a game key card than it will be to use the virtual game card feature and give her a loan of it for like 2 weeks. It's just easier to throw it in the console.
The reason I'm not as aggressive on them as some people is that you still get the pros of physical, being that you can shop around and get it cheaper, get a secondhand version, sell it. And I think as long as that stuff stays, I'm not going to say I'm not going to buy this game because it's on a game key card. I'm still going to, if I want the game, I'm going to get the game. And it's still cheaper for me to get a game key card than it is to download it from the eShop, and I can still sell it after if I want to. So I'm never going to say I'm not going to buy a game because it's on a game key card, but like Steve, I'll probably prioritize those that do get a game card. And I probably wouldn't have got Cyberpunk straight away if it weren't on a game card. But that just kind of fast tracks my me wanting to get it.
Yeah, and I feel the same way. I look at like Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD. They're saying that's going to be on a game. I think that's going to be on a game key card on Switch 2.
You're right.
Actually, on card on Switch 1. So I'm like, I think I might just get the Switch 1 version at that rate.
Yeah, because game cards are more important than ever. When games are 50 gigabytes, you really appreciate cartridges because you just put them in, you go, which is great for the storage, but it's also great compared to other consoles. PS5, you've got to install every game to your hard drive. Now, with a game card, Cyberpunk just goes in, you're ready to play. Just plug and play. And I want a lot more of that.
Yeah. It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Hard to disagree with that, but Daniel, you're next up. How are you feeling one weekend? What's your like and what's your dislike?
Oh man, you guys are already taking all the
it gets thinner towards
God, am I just gonna say GameCube again? The GameCube controller is so nice. It just is a GameCube controller, but it has multiple uses, not just in the GameCube NSO app, but also with Smash Brothers. I did a little demonstration with Smash Brothers. We finally have a GameCube controller where you don't have to use another controller to like go back to the menu to take a capture to do other stuff.
Nice.
It's just all in there. I did another experiment too where you can connect on tabletop. You can do a wire in an adapter to the USB-C on top to your Ethernet, so you can have wired in internet with the GameCube controller at the same time while on tabletop, which is a weird experience, but it does work. But overall, yeah, I love the little controller. It's nice to have the library on here, and the games to be expected to come later. I'm excited for things like Path of Radiance, Pokemon Coliseum. Those games have been very expensive if you want to buy them secondhand. So that's it's nice to be able to get some of these titles just somewhere that's a lot more accessible. Now you don't have to pay $200 something for Path of Radiance. Now you can just pay the price for a Switch and NSO online for the price to play it instead.
Now you can pay $500.
I haven't either.
Oh right. Same.
I'm not. Yeah.
Sega put Skies of Arcadia on GameCube.
Please.
So.
Yes.
It's over.
Oh hell yeah.
Possibilities. Yeah, I already wanted to like just keep playing all day with Brandon on like Soul Calibur 2, for example. We were just
so
jamming. Man, as for like a dislike, oh gosh. So day 2 with this Switch was like the biggest headache for me because I was trying to do the system data transfer, and they don't tell you that the only time you're offered to do that is at the initial start of your console. That exact process is not available after the fact, because it's not available on. It's just not available. So I was trying to figure out, what do I do? Am I gonna like factory reset my Switch 2 after already downloading all this other stuff? Is there a way I can get the data on here, because the biggest pain was getting data for games like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet and Animal Crossing, because those needed a separate process to get that save data onto one console to the other. I can download them separately as I need to. That's fine, but it's some of the save data that was the biggest headache, because I still need to do stuff with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I got them on here, but man, it was a process. Like, especially with the Animal Crossing transfer, like apparently it kept not registering. Like, it kept connecting to my Switch 1 to Switch 2, but then it kept having an error message, and I was trying to figure out what was wrong the entire time for like half the day. And then after trying different things, after like re-downloading it from a different user profile and all that, because it doesn't have that on there, I ended up doing going into my save data. For some reason, there was already save data on there. I don't know what it was. I had to delete that, and then it let it transfer after the fact. It was just not a fun experience. If you're going to transfer your data, do it at the beginning. I didn't know it was going to take like, what, 5 minutes to do so. I thought it was going to take like ages.
Faster than I thought. Yeah.
I was like, wow, I did the exact wrong thing. So if you haven't done it yet, your Switch 2, make sure you do that so you save yourself a lot of headaches afterwards.
Also, it's kind of annoying. Like, not annoying. I guess it's more convenient in the end, but I didn't know this was going to happen. When you do the system transfer, it transfers your island, but it doesn't.
Yep.
It doesn't do that between Switch 1 to Switch 1.
No,
so
interesting.
That was a big thing for me. Yeah.
They need to tell you that somewhere a little more clearly.
Well, there's a little list that pops up that lets you know that certain like special case games will also transfer their data. Like, I know mine listed Animal Crossing and Pokemon, and I was like, oh crap, it's actually going to do those, because I, like you, Brandon, I've transferred to different Switch ones and had to run like the little tool and then do this kind of annoying process to get those through. And I was really happy to see that happen. But I was also very surprised at how quickly the transfer went, because I think we were all were familiar. Like, I think most of us here have like moved on from our 2017 Switch to some other variation of it, and that takes like an hour, like to transfer your stuff.
I will say, I've got 17 minutes of capture left, so let's get through Ash and Derek before
Sorry. All right, so let's go ahead and speed things along. Ash, your like and dislike.
Yes. Okay. So obviously we're running out of things to talk about here. You guys have already taken so many good ones. And I've already talked about how much I love GameShare and Game Chat and how well it works. So I'm going to say I'm really loving the Joy-Con 2 magnets, man. Like, I never had an issue with sliding the Joy-Con ones in and out. Never had a problem with it. But the magnets just work. They still have that satisfying snap. Like all of you, I assume I mostly play with the Pro Controller, but when I play Welcome Tour, for example, or when I play something with my wife, I'll break off the Joy-Cons to, I'll need mouse mode for Welcome Tour. And it's just satisfying to snap them off, snap them right back on. And I think it just works, and it was a smart upgrade from the sliders on Switch 1. I just think the magnets are really satisfying, and they're just easy to use.
The wrist strap specifically, hate these on Switch 1. They just go so easily on Switch 2. You just put them on.
It's so great. Yeah, so I'm really loving the magnetic, the Joy-Con 2s. As far as something I dislike, this is more something I just find underwhelming more than not that I hate it, but I find it underwhelming. I am lucky enough to have a setup with my PS5 where I can enjoy truly great HDR. Switch 2 ain't it. Switch 2's implementation of HDR is extremely, extremely underwhelming. I hope it's something that can be improved in the future, both on handheld and on TV mode. I think it's extremely underwhelming. Not a game changer by any means. It's definitely one of those, like, trying to find things to complain about things, because you guys already hit some of the other stuff I would have talked about. But one thing I do keep coming back to is the HDR in Switch 2 is just kind of meh.
Yeah, you are right. Most games aren't using it properly.
Yeah.
It doesn't even work on my TV.
Really?
Like, my TV doesn't have the HGig display option, so it's just not tone mapping the HDR correctly.
I see.
So when I run the tool and it has you set the levels so that you can see the left sun but not the right one, they're just set to the same level. I can't undo it.
Yeah,
that doesn't work unless you have HGig. I know we're running short on time here, so I'm going to power through. Derek, where did you land on these?
Oh, thanks for leaving me the scraps.
I know we've robbed you of options.
As far as a good thing, I haven't had the chance to experience it yet, but I will highlight something John showcased in a recent video that I think is just really cool, and honestly makes me actually more interested in picking up a game I have not picked up yet, which is the motion controls. Is the fact that it does not desync constantly, where you have to push the button, center it again, push the button, center again, that constant thing. I never ended up picking up Skyward Sword HD. I love Skyward Sword, but I just never picked it up for whatever reason. Now I actually have interest in, like, maybe I should look for that and be able to enjoy it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because Wii U had better gyro than the Joy-Con and Switch 1 Pro controller. And now it seems like Splatoon players are happy again because they've finally got pretty good gyro.
Yeah. So
I'll be able to play Mario Galaxy without hating myself.
Yeah, exactly. That'll be nice too. I think that's another undersold thing. Like it'd be nice to have that for. Maybe we'll eventually get Wii games on NSO, or now we have the mouse mode. We can get DS games on the NSO. Like there's a lot. Like Nintendo has sort of solved a lot of the issues that might pop up for any of these old games that get ported, which is just cool to see. As for what I don't like, I could either get really pithy and be the Joy-Con holder. Since I don't have a Pro Controller yet, I've been using that, and it's just weird to me how it sort of levitates above rather than is flush
There's
like
a
the
gap.
original Switch. Yeah, there's a gap,
Okay.
and it's like you kind of get over it. Like it's not that huge of a deal, but it's like it looks dumb, and it's just an aesthetics thing. It's all it is. More serious though, and it's just, but I don't know if I should count it or not because it's a carryover from Switch 1. I do not like the online game cards.
Nah, man, I hate
the
them.
the fact that you can only share if it's in there, if it's in your family plan sucks, because it's not my entire family is in there. So what do we do to solve it? You can link your systems, but you can only link one other system. But I have multiple kids that are interested in playing my stuff now. That makes it a lot harder for them to play that specific game. And for some damn reason, Mario Kart World counts as a game key card. So if I haven't linked for example, my Switch 1 is linked to my son's Switch 1. My Switch 2 is no longer linked in there, and I can't play Mario Kart World.
Dude, free games are are virtual game cards.
Yeah,
Yeah,
everything
that's
YouTube
is.
is a virtual game
Yeah.
card. Fortnite is a virtual game.
The
Because it
game
didn't
cards
work yet.
are a terrible solution. Lending them out, that's fine within your family plan. That's all good. But the limited links suck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It is just an active, like
Agreed.
I have to constantly rearrange who's linked to who based on who's playing what,
Just let us freely lend amongst our family members, please.
or locally,
You can
or
do that on
something
Steam.
like that. Let me just one or two more links with a system would be nice to help that out. Or let us lend outside of our family plan, but hey, we can do it for a week instead of 2 weeks.
Yeah.
There,
Yeah, I
guess
think. Oh, go ahead.
you had to. I was going to say, GameShare is like a half step there, right? Like you can share your games with people, play together. It's the right idea, but it's not a replacement. It's a different function.
yeah,
Yeah, as an InfoSec guy, like in my outside GVG life, I understand why Nintendo might want to limit this, because obviously, say somebody hacks your account, right, and then they just loan your library out to randos. I can see why Nintendo wouldn't want that on as a headache that they then have to deal with. But there's got to be a comfortable medium here. Like, what if my brother, who isn't in my plan, comes over to my house and I just locally could say, here, you can borrow this game, and Nintendo will claw it back from you in a week or 2 weeks, and then I just magically get
Exactly.
it back. I think that should be possible. The same way that if you come over to my house, I can hand you one of my cards and just be like, yeah, bring it back later. Nintendo's not going to step in and stop me. So I do think there's some refinement that could happen there. I personally think that it's a good first step, but I totally get why some people are really frustrated by how they've done it.
Mhm.
But anyway, that's all we've got time for. We've we've spent a week with the Switch 2. We could probably go for like several more hours, but we all have things to do and videos to make for you guys to watch. If you would like to support us in making all the videos we've been making, you can head over to patreon.com/gvgaming to join our winner circle. For just $5 a month, that'll get you early access to each and every episode of The Week in Nintendo. Usually it's some combination of three of us here from GVG talking about whatever's going on. And now that Switch 2 is here, there's going to be a lot more to discuss every single week. So we'd appreciate it if you go check it out, learn more about it. But if you're here, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening wherever you're enjoying The Week in Nintendo. That's going to do it for us. We will see you guys next week. We hope you're happy, safe, and healthy wherever you are. And we'll see y'all next time. Until then, bye.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Bring it again.